1st of August, Rabbi Moore, Parsha Hashavua with Rashi, Devarim.
Coca-Cola, the actual drink is black, but why is the color red? It's because people want to, it's attractive. And basically it was, I see it, I want it, I like it. I see it, I like it, I want it. That was really summed up who Esav was. He was
right. So I'm saying it should have been obvious to Ruvain that this was what Esav was about.
Yeah, on the other hand, put it this way, Esav represented the easy life, the life of prosperity. He had a life of prosperity. He was a wealthy man. He lived in his ranch or whatever he had there in Seir. If Reuben wanted Olam Hazeh, right, rather than the doctrine of his father, which was Olam Haba, which nobody had ever proven that this was all abstract. It all sounded fine and dandy, right? But if it's going to be tough, maybe Reuben. This is where Yaakov was choshesh. Maybe Reuven might have doubts about my doctrine of Olam Haba, and that we've got to go down to Mitzrayim, and we're going to have it tough, and it's all because we're the Am HaNivcham. We're going to be sitting and learning, and what's everybody else doing? Everybody else is having busy themselves with Olam Hazeh, with Avodah Zarah and everything else, and Yaakov's going against the tide of everybody else. If you want to put it in today's terms, the father says to the kid, you can't have an iPhone. It's terrible. It's all the stuff there. It's all schmutz. It's all wasting your time. It's all drawing away from using your mind. All the tirutzim. And this poor kid sees everybody has their iPhone. Everybody. Just my father's this nutcase here who says he's preaching against me, and he says, it's the worst thing you could have. But everybody else is doing it. Yeah. So why shouldn't I do it? And if you think of it in a teenager's mind, well, obviously Reuben wasn't a teenager anymore. But if everybody else is doing it, everybody's enjoying life and using their iPhones and for everything under the sun and spending don't know how many hours a day on it and whatever. So I've got to be different.
So the father says, I'm not going to discipline my child because I'm afraid he'll go get an iPhone?
No. So you're right. So what is necessary for his for keeping him on the straight and narrow, I'm going to tell him. But on the other hand, if there's an element of improvement of character, which I ought to tell him, but he can manage without it. He can manage without it. He can be a good boy. He could reach a higher level, but I'm going to avoid bringing up the subject because I don't want to shake the boat.
But doesn't the Gemara say that it was like it was as though Ruvain had relations with Bilhah?
That was because his act of infringing on Yaakov's privacy was tantamount to doing something like that.
So it was a very major problem.
Yeah, but you see that, I'll give an example. I don't think, had Yaakov been choshesh that Reuben's going to do it again, I'm sure he would have told him to stop. And we see, obviously, he did tshuva for the actual ma'aser, which he did. But as we're splitting it into two, we're splitting on the one hand, it's the actual ma'aser which he did, which Reuben did tshuva for that, right? And the other thing is the character flaw which brought about that action, which was character, as you say, a flaw of impetuosity, that he didn't have proper control of his character. So even though technically that flaw of impetuosity was a more major flaw because it's something which could affect many areas, okay, but on the other hand, it didn't necessarily was going to bring him to do something wrong. And when it did bring him to do something wrong, he had actually done tshuva for that avera. Okay, but you're making a good point. And that's what did, most times we feel when we see a child who is has some character fault. Obviously, you don't wait till he's in his 60s or whatever, however it was, that you want to make a cheshbon. Reuven was Yaakov Avinu's oldest son. He was born when he was 84, 85 years old. And Yaakov died when he was 147 years old, so he was 62. I'm not even 62 yet. Okay? Just imagine, didn't Yaakov was hesitant to rebuke Reuven because maybe he's going to go off and join my brother Esau. Yeah, okay. It requires a bit of okay. What I'm trying to do is, it's not so absurd. What I'm pointing out, it doesn't sound so out of the ballpark, but it still requires a lot of understanding to understand why. What was the point of the rebuke which Yaakov wanted to get across to Reuven, which he felt could wait till he was about to leave this world.
Right.
And also that it was of that such a type of thing that if he would, as his attempt to rebuke him would go awry, right, would go wrong, then there's a danger that Reuven's going to start running after Esau. Okay. Yeah, continues the Rashi.
Mipnei arba'a Devarim, because of 4 things. Just let me turn this off. Because of 4 things, ein mochichin es hadam. We do not rebuke a person. Ella samuch lemisa, except when we're close to death. Kidei shelo yehei mochiach. In order that he should not rebuke him, v'chozer umochiach, and go back and rebuke him again.
Which will obviously lose the whole effect.
Right.
I mean, for example, you tell your son to get up in the morning because he's late for Shachris. So you tell him once, okay, it's, wow, what's my first day? And then when it's going to happen the next day, and the next day as well, the next day, like, okay, Dad, I heard you the first day. Don't have to come and tell me again. Okay.
And Dad says, I told you a million times not to do that.
Right. Okay.
Shlo yehei chavei ro'ehu. And so that his friend should not see him. Umis bayesh mi menu kula.
Umisbayesh mimenu. Okay. Now kula means etc.
Etc. So he would be embarrassed in front of him, etc.
Okay. Now the etc. is referring to the Isa B'Sifrei, mentions another two, because Rashi only mentions two of them. Okay, one is that's number one. Okay.
Right.
Number two is that he shouldn't, person who he's reproving should be ashamed, and it's the father gives his son, he call it, ranks him out for what he's done. So now the kid's not going to be able to face his father again. Okay, that's number one. Number two.
Right.
And the other two, Rashi doesn't mention here, but I mentioned it in my notes, which the Mefarshim do mention it. Just 1 second.
Oh, I have an interesting question in my footnote. Why didn't Yaakov worry that after he rebuked him before his death, then Reuven would join with Esau?
You go after his death.
Yeah.
Very good question.
Even more likely, because before his death,
Right,
he would have to deal with Yaakov's suffering and pain. But after, he could say, well, now I'm going to join Esau.
That's a very good question. So what's the answer?
He quotes the Sifri.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't understand what it says. It says it was because Reuben would be too embarrassed to face him during his lifetime. But that's the opposite of what we need as an answer. That's the reason why he should.
That's a good question.
Be worried.
I don't know. I just quote over here. Okay, I'll have to check that out. But here I quote over in my notes. Sifrei lists the other two reasons, so that the person being rebuked should not hate the one rebuking him. Okay, and so that no quarrel should break out between the two parties.
Okay, I understand the second one, but not the first one. If it's the day before his death, still you can hate somebody who's dead.
Right. I mean, why does it think? But your question is a good question. All right, why is he going to go and not run after him?
Especially if he rebukes him in front of others, he could be embittered, and he could say, "Okay, you embarrassed me in front of my brothers. I'm going to Esau."
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very good question.
Anyway, I think we're out of time.
Oh wow! I didn't realize got so involved with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good discussion.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay. Have a great day.
You too.
Say that.